Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining. We are so excited for our chat today. So, as a quick reminder, I'm Emily, president of Joy Parenting Club, and we are joined by my friend, former colleague, and wealth of knowledge, Dr. Zachary Stuckelman. He is going to do a quick intro, tell us a little bit about himself, and then we will hop into our topic of the day, which is understanding transitions of the season. So, welcome, Zach. Talk to us. Tell us about yourself.
Um, I'm Dr. Zachary Stuckelman. I am the head of research and curriculum development at Tiny Souls Media. We are a children's media company focused on creating meaningful resources and content dedicated to young children's social emotional learning. I have a pretty long history in children's media, but also in just child development in general. I got my PhD in developmental psychology from Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee, and pretty much have spent most of my career dedicated to creating resources for both parents and kids that help them grow together, whether through fun animated cartoons or articles or videos. But my job is just to learn as much as I can in order to help the most amount of kids and families as possible.
Amazing. Well, we're happy to have you, and everybody should read more and check out Tiny Souls. I'm sure we can link to go to the website and learn and
Totally.
download. So today we're going to dive into it is June 12th, or whenever you're listening to this, it is likely summertime. It is hot. It is the end of school. Let's just dive in. Let's talk about transitions as they relate to this time of year, specifically in young children. And we as adults probably experience transitions slightly differently than children. Is that true? And why might that be the case?
Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely true. Children, especially little ones around the age of 2, 3, the toddler phase, are in this really incredible period of developmental change. They are going through so much growth and so much learning and so many new experiences. And so when that is also compounded with a complete shift away from maybe the traditional routine, right? So a lot of kids maybe are in daycare or in some sort of day program during the year. But what that really brings in is a ton of change, both for the kid and for the family. You might see kids, going away from a routine of being at a daycare program or a preschool from 9 in the morning to 2 or 3 in the afternoon to being home all day. See, even for families that maybe don't utilize a daycare program, a child, an older sibling coming home, and now all of a sudden attention with the parent is being split between an older sibling and a younger child. All of that within the context of developmental psychology truly is overload for a
Mm.
2 year old, right? An overload of stimulus. Kids at this age are in the real kind of prime time of developing what we call executive functioning skills that really can help them navigate transitions. The one executive function that really stands out in the research is a term called cognitive flexibility. And it is literally their ability to adapt to changing environments and contexts at a moment's notice or even with preparation. Research finds that kids at 2 years old do not have the same cognitive flexibility that you or I, Emily, have as adults. But we, as human beings, are still developing cognitive flexibility all the way through our teenage years.
Yeah.
So our ability to cope with change is so much more reduced when we're littles. They're only able to process so much information at once, and they're only able to adapt so quickly. But we sometimes as adults put our own expectations of
Yeah.
our cognitive flexibility or our cognitive skills on a 2 year old, which is not scientifically accurate.
So I was just going to say, as a parent, it really is just about framing of expectations of what can I expect of my child's ability to adapt, change. And so let me zoom in on this moment a little bit. Like what might that look like for a child who is going through this? Like as a parent, if I have a 2, a 3, I have a 4-year-old as my youngest, like how might this appear or present itself?
Yeah, so I mean, Obviously, it depends on the age, it depends on the skill set of the child. Every child truly is a unique individual. Some common ones that I have observed and I have seen in the research has been, right, a resistance to change. So if, let's say, they are typically used to waking up, getting breakfast, going to school, you might see that really big struggle and confusion. But, well, what do I do now between breakfast and going to school? You might see them actually ask, when am I going to school? You might see big feelings in the wake of being told that that's not what we're doing today.
Right.
And big feelings can look a lot of different ways. I think oftentimes when I'm discussing it with parents, we often associate them with things like tantrums and negative feelings, but it could be overexcitement and
Right.
bouncing off the walls. It
So it
might
could
look
be
like
like
that.
physical dysregulation, emotional dysregulation, maybe like fear and anxiety.
Absolutely.
I know my daughter is preparing for camp. She's 4, she's a little bit older, so she's able to verbalize like it's hard for me, like camp is different, camp is scary. And it's nice that we're talking about this in early June where there might be still some like prep or time before these transitions happen. Like,
Sure.
what's the sweet spot of preparation, or what amount of preparation or heads up or whatever can we provide for our children? And what's the best way that you would recommend kind of going about that?
Yeah, so I think the best way of looking at it is that the younger you go, in all likelihood, the more preparation you're going to need. As I said, like kids' cognitive flexibilities are still developing. Another critical skill that is still developing is just emotion regulation, their ability to cope and make themselves regulate in the face of something that could cause dysregulation. So right, the younger you get, the less time they've had to develop those things, the more preparation you're likely going to need. One technique that I think is often utilized, especially in addressing things like fears and anxieties, is gradual exposure. So, for instance, with something like your daughter and camp, starting off maybe going and driving by the camp, pointing it out, saying, look, that's where you're going to go to camp. Then maybe another day going and driving up and parking and being like, look, the entrance, this is where I'll pick you up. Another day doing a walkthrough, giving the child kind of this gradual build up to understanding that this environment is a safe one for them. As an adult, we can do that. We go to a new, target and we're like, okay, let me orient myself. But for a 4-year-old, this is a totally new environment for them. In order to give them that their space and their time, it may take a couple of steps. The gradual nature of it is what's going to allow them to kind of get used to it. It's like dipping your feet into the water of a pool.
What about also, how do you feel about like checklists or visual charts that kind of lead up to an experience? Does that feel anxiety producing, or is that a nice way to kind of provide children that like measure of time?
Yeah, I think for little ones, like the littles, your 2-year-olds, they're still developing their understanding of just like legitimate symbols. Around 3 or 4, it's starting to build, it's starting to grow, so it could be better. What's more helpful in all likelihood for like the littles in those sorts of situations is things like modeling, right? Watching a parent deal with new situations, watching a parent deal with dysregulation in the face of change, that is where children are really in their sweet spot. So if they see you take on a change or do something new, and you can even express that to them, like, that was scary, but this is what I did, and now I feel better, and we're gonna keep going. Mommy had to go on a business trip, or daddy had to go to do something, any of those things that can be discussed and kind of spoken to your child as though they are like actively able to understand, because they really do, whether it's tone or presentation. Having a visual schedule can be fun. They like to change it, they like to take numbers. So a visual cue, while fun and can be engaging, it's not going to necessarily always be the most understandable for the littles. But for your older kids, for your 3 and your 4 and your 5s, that maybe is the key time to start introducing those sorts of tools for sure, for those sorts of transitions.
Love that. I love that. I'm going to try. I think it'll actually help her. I'm just trying to think about, transitions are tricky. Toddler transitions are tricky. What about the summer makes it harder? Is it the heat? I feel like there are external factors that make summer trickier, and I don't know that I can put them into words, but maybe you can.
Yeah, I mean, I think what the summer tends to represent is number one, like, yes, there's the heat.
Always like a fireworks thing. Like there's just like more stuff happening, I feel like.
There is. There's more stuff happening, but also what pairs with that more stuff is a disruption of the norm. Is that, as I said before, whether it is the child, the individual child, or the family, the summer tends to represent a period of more openness and more choose your own adventure.
I feel like there's like element of like pressure that this has to be fun in the summer, right? It's like summer, like this is supposed to be amazing, relaxing. Like it's almost like forced happiness in a way. So it's like if it's not always great, it feels like you did something wrong, right? Because like this is supposed to be
Sure.
like a relaxing break and a relaxing vacation, and often it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think parents put a lot of pressure on themselves, particularly in the earlier years, because they do know how critical this time is. But the thing that I always say to reassure parents is it's not about the like all the trips and the vacations and the new experiences. I mean, those are all things that like children certainly, well, first of all, depending on their age, they may not even remember. But in general, what kids benefit from is just good quality time with you and feeling safe and feeling happy and willing to give them space to explore and be
Yeah.
independent, but also feel that they have a safety net. I think that like that's the case for the entire year, but I think the summer presents a unique opportunity because it does tend to be increased quality time opportunities for kids because they're not necessarily in a daycare or a formal school or any kind of program that may take them out of the house under somebody else's care for a day or a couple of days a week. And perfect doesn't mean like I think especially in the age of social media for parents, it can be difficult to not compare ourselves to those like influencers and mommy bloggers and people who are like putting themselves out there being like me and my kids went to Ibiza and it was amazing and all this
We
stuff.
made
And
paint out of like chalk and glitter. It's like, well, we
right,
didn't.
right. And like I think it's easy to get bogged down in that and to feel like
Yeah.
I'm not good enough. Your best for your kid is always going to be good enough because they are in such a critical time where they desperately just want to hang out with you and they desperately want to play with you and they desperately just want to spend time where they can watch you love them, care about them, talk to them, be silly with them. It's not like you know, this time of child development is ripe with opportunity to turn absolutely nothing into a game, absolutely nothing into opportunities for play. Kids are learning through play critically during this time. What you need is to just like create a space where you and your child can feel number one, that pressure off, and number two, can just like be together and learn from each other because that's going to be what ends up really being what matters most. Research is always saying positive, high quality interactions between parents and caregivers and their kids. That is a huge predictor of mental health, social well being, academic performance. Anything that you can dream of can sprout from an interaction between a parent and child that is good and positive and fun.
And simple, right? Like it doesn't have to be like
Yeah,
a walk,
yeah,
like go explore a park, whatever, simple, easy.
absolutely. Or like, I mean, literally, in the Tiny Souls app, we have one activity where it's literally like take two toilet paper rolls, paste them together, decorate them with markers, and then use them as binoculars, right? Like sometimes it's just the simple stuff that can turn into like a whole day's worth of adventure. And that's like something that we really try and promote at our company is that like play is all around, joint opportunities for engagement is all available to you with just like very little effort, and it can
Yeah.
just turn into a world of delight and joy and development for your kid.
I love that. That's so true. And the summer is such a perfect time for that, where there's not the pressure of academic learning. But I will, and we can sort of, we'll wrap up with a few last questions. But this one I think is a good one for parents who feel, you're still working, right? You're a working parent. Your kids are out of
Totally.
their routine. Like life's maybe more, again, more pressure to go and do and see. How do parents balance that sort of internal or even external pressure that they might feel during the summer?
I think what enough is okay, like come home from work, like spend 30 minutes with your kid. I know that there's a lot of house chores and things to do, but turn those opportunities into joint opportunities. That's okay. Just have them sit with you while you do the laundry. Ask them about their day. Talk to them about what you did, etc. Something as small as that is absolutely more than enough, right? If you can, play with their toys with them. Try and have a meal where, look, we all use these things all the time now. Try and have a meal where you don't pick up your phone, you don't turn on the TV, actively engaging them in discussion, in play, in something that is going to be more than enough,
And
because
it seems
kids.
like doing those consistent things might keep it feeling more routiny than it otherwise could, right? So like if there's a lot of change, maybe having those consistent, like every night we try to sit together and read a story, or we wake up and do our morning stretches. I'm making this up, but like I feel
Yeah.
like that could make a really crazy schedule feel a little bit more consistent.
Well, that's why, like,
The research, when I have read it and done it on routines, so much of it is about trying to encourage parents to establish routine activities that require little resources to accomplish no matter where you are, right? So whether it's, right, like if you think about, let's say you go to visit parents in a different time zone, bring a couple of paper books, bring a couple of picture books. Right. Maybe in the morning you always sit together for breakfast. It doesn't matter where breakfast is, as long as you're together, sit with them. Maybe during the day on the way to school, you play a song that they really like. Do that on the way to camp or to summer daycare. It's about those things that are consistent, but frankly, it shouldn't be something that's like so over the top, like involved, that like any sort of change in the norm is going to lead to disruption, right? If you can do a bedtime routine that is made up of reading a story, brushing teeth, putting on PJs, and singing a lullaby, there doesn't need to be a ton of lift to get those things done, no matter where you are.
Love that. Well, thank you. And this has been wonderful. I think super chock full of tips and validation, hopefully a little bit of a sigh of relief. Where can people learn more about you and Tiny Souls?
yeah.
So you can check out us on tinysoulsmedia.com. You can also check out our parent and caregiver app on the Apple App Store, the Google App Store, at Tiny Souls Media, and then our kids animated show, which just won the Kids Screen Award for Best Preschool Web Series, is on YouTube under Zip and the Tiny Sprouts. So we're really trying to put out a lot of really good content that can, number one, be adapted to any family's life, but also can benefit them in an area that I think a lot of families don't always know what to do in, which is social and emotional development. We know how to teach literacy, we know how to teach math, but stuff like how do I teach my kid to be gentle, or encourage them to persevere. These are things that not a ton of parents always know about. So we're hoping to help fill that role in the lives of families everywhere.
That's fabulous. And we're so lucky to have you and Tiny Souls and great to collaborate. And
Yeah.
thank you again
Of
and have a great
course.
summer.
You too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Zach. We'll talk to you
You're
soon.
welcome.
All right, thanks, Em.